Our movie starts when all Pearl wants is to be a dancer and see the globe. She is forced to live an unfulfilling existence on her parents' farm. She resorts to violence to live a free life when it appears that everyone around her is crushing her aspirations. In 1918, Pearl dances in one of her mother's old costumes in a farmhouse in the country of Texas, admiring herself in the mirror. Suddenly, Pearl's mother Ruth enters and chastises Pearl in German for wearing her old clothes and orders her to remove them. She then instructs her daughter to feed the barnyard animals. Pearl explains to Charlie the cow and Mary the sheep in the barn that farm life isn't for her since she is unique and will become well known around the globe. She climbs a tower of hay bales and does a dramatic pitchfork spin. A goose comes into the barn a moment later, and Pearl walks over to it while clutching the pitchfork. She stabs the animal inexplicably, holding the pitchfork above it. Later, Pearl approaches the pond's pier's edge and summons the alligator, Theta. She offers the dead goose skewered on the pitchfork as the lizard swims quickly toward the pier. Theta leaps from the gloomy water and catches the bird in her teeth. Ruth informs her daughter that her aspirations of dancing are self-centered that evening when she is making dinner. After that, she orders her daughter to go get her father. When Pearl is about to depart, she notices a newspaper and remarks that the Allies have taken over France and that the war may soon come to an end. Ruth brushes off her comments and asks that there be no discussion of war tonight. The dining room is soon entered by Pearl as she maneuvers her father's wheelchair. Her father is ill, mute, and unable to take care of himself. Ruth instructs her daughter to assist her father with his meal at the table. Later that evening, Pearl reads the letters her husband Howard had sent to her while he was gone at war. She imagines seeing Howard in the driveway while wearing his uniform as she misses her spouse. After that, Pearl delivers her father his prescription and informs him that she would be returning the next day to get more. She says she'll visit the cinema to see a movie. She then enters the bathtub and shares with her father how she thinks she may one day be one of the top dancers that are captured on camera. Ruth suddenly enters the restroom and announces that the medication's payment is on the table. She tells her daughter that due to the recurrence of influenza cases, she should hide her face while she is in town. The next day, Pearl takes her bike to the drugstore to get her father's syrup refilled. After that, she visits a theater to see Palace Follies. Before admiring the pictures of the dancing women on TV, she takes a sip of medication. After the film, Pearl reads the program in the alleyway next to the theater. There, she runs into a man who offers her a cigarette and tells her that if she wanted to, she could succeed as a dancer. The projectionist offers to let her slip backstage to view the next film, but she rejects it since she needs to go home shortly. She is instructed by the projectionist to wait for him outside while he enters the theater again. He gives her a frame from the Palace Follies movie reel as a memento when he comes back. Pearl pursues the film frame into a cornfield as it is caught in a blast of wind while riding her bike home. She discovers a scarecrow with a top hat in a clearing. After removing the scarecrow, she dons the top hat and starts waltzing about with it. After the dance, she gives the scarecrow a passionate kiss before dropping it as soon as she notices that it has changed into the projectionist. She defensively yells at the scarecrow that she is married after being startled. She crosses the scarecrow and enjoys herself shortly after. Ruth instructs Pearl to wash up outside the house so she won't bring any germs inside and to put the top hat on the porch. Pearl tells her father about the movie she watched earlier in the restroom. She waits for a response before pinching his finger after a little interval. When her father doesn't respond, she pokes his face, checks to see if he's still inside, then squeezes his neck. Ruth inquires about the remaining money over dinner, and Pearl lies and claims she spent it on chocolates. Ruth moves her daughter's plate aside, explains that the candy served as her meal, and warns her not to handle money carelessly. Then she instructs her daughter to get up from the table. Pearl prays to become the biggest celebrity the world has ever known so she may be as far away from this location as she can be in her bedroom, next to a framed photo of Howard on a table. A shooting star crosses the sky outside the window. Pearl observes her wealthy mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Mitzi, arriving the next day in the barn. When Mitzi moves toward the barn, Pearl praises her outfit. Pearl shakes her head when Mitzi asks if she's gotten any fresh letters from Howard. Howard might have been medically disqualified from serving in the war, but he went nevertheless out of hatred for his father, according to their family's knowledge of a doctor. Pearl's mother-in-law brings a roast pig to the porch, but Ruth refuses it and claims they don't take charity, so her mother-in-law leaves the food there. Mitzi tells the group in the barn about the dance test for the church's traveling chorus line. Mitzi tells her pal that the audition is on set at 11 a.m. and that she would like for them to attend together. Pearl enthusiastically kisses Charlie's nose when Mitzi and her mother-in-law depart, thinking that this would be her big break. Pearl imagines herself on stage in the bunkhouse as she retrieves the top hat and program from under the bed. Pearl hides from her mother by stealing a dress from Ruth's wardrobe in the home. In front of the mirror, she dons the outfit and top hat. Pearl sneaks out the window one evening and takes her bike to the theater. The projectionist answers her knock at the side entrance and invites her in. When Pearl informs him about her upcoming dancing audition in the projection room, he gives her advice on how to trust in herself and go for it. She responds, Palace Follies, when he asks her what movie she would like to see. He informs her that she has already watched it and requests permission to show her a movie he brought over from France. He instructs her to view via a tiny window as the projector starts to spin. The interested young woman observes a movie with a male and two ladies have. The projectionist predicts that stag movies will change the movie business and he has plans to profit from it. The man advises her to make the most of her life since she might not get another chance later as the two of them sit on the couch. After the outbreak, he discusses migrating to Europe. If only her parents could pass away, she claims she'd want to accomplish it. She dismisses the man's surprise at her statements and remarks on how pleasant it is to speak with someone, particularly given her concern that she might not be like other people. She then bids the man farewell and thanks him for seeing her tonight. When Pearl enters the house covertly at home, she hears sounds emanating from another room. She finds her mother weeping on her bed as she makes her way down the hallway. Returning to her bedroom, the young woman rests in bed gazing at Howard's picture. The next day, Pearl drags her father's wheelchair outside, and Ruth witnesses their departure. At the pond, Pearl maneuvers the wheelchair nearly to the edge of the pier before calling out to Theta. She informs her father that she will soon be departing and that it will be simpler for her if she doesn't feel as though she is deserting him. Ruth asks her what she is doing and informs her that her father has to return to the house at once. Ruth responds that she simply wants what is best when the girl asks her mother why she despises her. Before wheeling her husband back home, Pearl asks her mother when she'll grasp that making the most of what you already have is what's crucial. After finding the alligator's nest and taking one egg, Theta swims away by the pond's side, where Pearl later observes her. Pearl crushes the alligator egg in the barn and imagines Howard blowing up as he moves toward the home. Ruth instructs her daughter to withdraw to the bunkhouse while she watches the Palace Follies program during supper. Ruth prohibits her daughter from attending the audition she claims is tomorrow. Ruth deems Pearl ungrateful and claims that although she conceals her genuine, evil nature, others will discover and be alarmed by her exactly as she is. Frustrated, Ruth claims that she will never let her daughter leave the property, and that she is sick and will soon cause harm to someone. When the young woman insists that she cannot be stopped from going, her mother becomes upset and expresses her sincere grief at having to spend her life caring for her catatonic husband. Ruth suddenly takes up a knife and gives it to her, wanting them both to die. Ruth presses the blade to her husband's throat while instructing her daughter to do the same for the sake of her aspirations. Before stabbing the table, she questions why she should have to take care of her husband and the farm while still being denied what she desires. Ruth advises her to go if that's what she wants, but if not, she wants Pearl to keep in mind how it feels since she experiences it every time she sees her. Pearl says humbly that all she wants is to avoid being like her mother. Ruth approaches her slowly after becoming upset by her child's remarks, smacks her across the face, and the two women engage in physical combat. Pearl abruptly shoves her mother toward the fireplace. Ruth's skirt starts to burn, and before she knows it, she is enveloped in flames and falling to the ground. By hurling a jug of water at her mother, her daughter extinguishes the fire. Ruth, who has third-degree burns, groans in pain as she lies on the ground. Her spouse can only helplessly observe. Pearl carries her mother down the cellar steps a little while later. When she enters the dining room again, she notices her father's terror in his eyes. Later, Pearl meets the projectionist at the theater where she is headed. The young woman fantasizes about bowing down to the audience as they throw flowers onto the platform. Her father, Howard, and Ruth congratulate her, but as Ruth takes off her mask, she displays a severely burned face. Next to the projectionist, Pearl abruptly awakens from the nightmare. She tells him she needs to prepare for the audition as she gets out of bed, puts on her clothing, and leaves. When Pearl is being driven home by the projectionist later, she spots a soldier crossing the street and wonders whether it may be Howard. Pearl instructs the man to wait outside for a while at the residence. She enters and apologizes for abandoning her father, who is still in the dining room. In order to hear any noise, she sets her ear next to the cellar entrance. When her father is in his room, she wheels him there and gives him his syrup. When the projectionist notices the dead pig on the porch from outside, Pearl invites him inside. They should go to her bedroom, she adds as she presents the man to her father. The two have a kiss on the bed in her bedroom as the lady declares her desire to leave the farm permanently, while the man argues that it's not all that horrible. They hear a disturbance downstairs all of a sudden, but Pearl decides to ignore it. The man pulls her away from him and decides that they should investigate in case it's her father. The projectionist notices the mess in the kitchen from below, and when Pearl touches his shoulder, he is startled. She lies and claims that she put the mess in the cellar and that their dog caused it. She brings him to the barn after that and introduces him to the animals there. She remembers her lie and replies that they don't have a dog when he asks what their dog's name is. The projectionist is startled by Pearl and claims he needs to get back to work before kissing her cheek. She inquires as to what she did wrong for him to become distant from her, but he maintains she did nothing wrong. She refuses to travel with him to Europe because she believes he is lying, and she irately pursues him for an explanation. She frightens him, the projectionist admits, and he wishes her luck in the audition before walking away. Pearl seizes the pitchfork as he walks away and continues to his car. The man ignores the enraged woman behind him, who stabs him in the chest with a pitchfork and cries that she's not remaining on the farm. After pulling the man to the ground and impaling him through the mouth, Pearl chases after the automobile as it rolls away. She later pushes Ruth down the stairs after seeing her standing at the top of the stairs when she opened the cellar door. She cleans up her father in the bathroom and hopes he wouldn't stare at her so frighteningly. Soon later, Pearl appears with a bag and dons her mother's red clothing. As a tear slides down his face, she enters her father's room and shows off her outfit. She gives him a kiss and thanks him for everything before covering him with a pillowcase. A little while later, Theta swims over to the Projectionist's automobile while Pearl pulls it toward the pond. Pearl waits for her turn at the chapel next to a frazzled Mitzi. When Mitzi inquires as to why she isn't afraid, Pearl responds that she is just accustomed to the sensation. When it is Pearl's turn to perform, she alerts the pianist that she is ready and starts her audition routine. She is suddenly joined on stage by several dancers as they perform in front of a battlefield as the curtains behind her open. As she strikes a victory posture toward the finish of the performance, pyrotechnics light up the sky. The panel praises Pearl for trying out but rejects her after the performance. They respond that they are seeking someone younger and blonde when she inquires as to their motivation. Pearl starts to cry as she visualizes her parents and the projectionist, Howard, sitting on the panel. She cries that she's a celebrity and begs for another opportunity. Mitzi offers to take Pearl home after seeing her sobbing outside the chapel a little while later. Mitzi notices the decomposing roast pig on the porch. Mitzi joins Pearl at the dining table as she consoles her sister-in-law. When Pearl confides that she could be experiencing a mental health issue, Mitzi offers to pose as Howard so that her buddy can express all she's been holding within. Pearl launches into a lengthy confession, beginning with her hatred of Howard's dislike of his privilege and how, despite knowing how much she detested it, he never rescued her from her awful circumstances. She imagines herself having affairs with other guys and the projectionist. She acknowledges that because she never intended to be a mother, she was relieved when she miscarried Howard's kid. She freely admits that she enjoys hurting living things. She started with animals because they had no emotions, but she felt better after killing her mother and the projectionist. Because she believes her father didn't deserve it, she feels terrible about smothering him. Pearl's disclosures leave Mitzi speechless, and she gets up to go. Mitzi lies and claims that Pearl lied when she said she was glad for her winning the part. Pearl ultimately says that she is eager to dance around the state because she wants Mitzi wouldn't be lying to her. In response, Mitzi assures Pearl that she won't reveal what she did to anybody. Mitzi leaves the house through the front entrance a short while later. When she witnesses Pearl pick up an axe, she runs while yelling for help. When Mitzi trips, Pearl follows her and repeatedly cuts at her back until Mitzi drops to the ground. Mitzi asserts that she will do whatever she pleases, but Pearl counters that what matters now is making the most of what she already has. Pearl soon arranges her parents' bodies on the dining room table and sets it. Days later, Howard enters the home after his return from the war. He sees his wife in the corner of the dining room and is terrified by what he sees. She offers him a long, hurting grin as she expresses her happiness that he is back home. This is how our movie ends. Tell us in the comments how you felt about this movie recap. See you in the following movie recap.